This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching Eagle News International. Good evening, CJ.
Good evening, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining the broadcast. Here are tonight's headlines.
Authorities in West Africa have confirmed the region's first known case of Marburg virus after at least one person in Guinea died of the hemorrhagic fever disease, according to the World Health Organization.
Hundreds of residents in the Philippine capital, Manila, received government cash aid to ease the economic pain caused by the latest coronavirus lockdown.
Thai police used rubber bullets against protesters for a second day in a row as demonstrators rallied against the government and its handling of the coronavirus crisis.
And a firm specializing in transferring cryptocurrency said that hackers cracked its security, making off with a record-setting haul potentially worth $600 million.
First, authorities in West Africa have confirmed the region's first known case of the Marburg virus after at least one person in Guinea died of the hemorrhagic fever disease. That, according to the World Health Organization, health officials said they were trying to track down everyone who may have come into contact with that patient. Now, Marburg virus is a highly dangerous pathogen that causes hemorrhagic fever. According to the past outbreaks, the average fatality rate is 50% in a range of 24 to 88%. The virus is part of the so-called filovirus family, to which the Ebola virus also belongs. It takes its name from the German city of Marburg, where it was first identified in 1967, in a lab where workers had been in contact with infected green monkeys that had been imported from Uganda. Two other outbreaks occurred at the same time in Frankfurt, also in Germany, and in Belgrade, and then the capital of Yugoslavia, now Serbia. 7 people died. Now, how is this transmitted? The natural reservoir or host of the Marburg virus is the African fruit bat. The cave-dwelling mammals carry the virus but do not fall sick from it and can hand the virus to primates in close proximity, including humans. One suspected pathway is the killing or butchering of infected bats for food. Human-to-human transmission then occurs through contact with blood or other bodily virus, or contact with surfaces such as bedding or clothing that are contaminated with the fluids. Some infections have happened accidentally in the lab, though through needle wounds. The virus takes between 2 and 21 days to incubate, leading to abrupt symptoms of high fever, severe headaches, muscular pain, vomiting, and diarrhea, symptoms that can make Marburg difficult to diagnose initially, as they are similar to diseases such as typhoid and malaria. Hemorrhagic episodes typically follow between 5 and 7 days later, with blood in the vomit and feces and bleeding from the nose, gums, and genitals. In fatal cases, death occurs most often between 8 and 9 days. There are no vaccines or antiviral treatments for Marburg disease. However, rehydration with oral or intravenous techniques improve survival, and experimental use of monoclonal antibody drugs has been promising.
Now, in other news, Thai police used rubber bullets against protesters for a second day in a row as demonstrators rallied against the government and its handling of the coronavirus crisis. Demonstrators defied a ban on public gatherings as Thailand tries to quash its worst virus outbreak so far. We have Faye Barte joining us live. Faye, what can you tell us?
Good evening to you, CJ, and to all our viewers. This is the second day of the protest or anti-government protest. Now, we gathered some information that these activists were gathered again at Victory Monument, which is a part of the city center of Bangkok. They started gathering at 5 p.m., that is Thailand time. And the report that we have gathered, they gathered here because they want to criticize the unfair judicial system, as stated, silencing the critics by detaining key leaders. And CJ, this type protesters called their rally as a car mob because they are going to use some vehicles to gather in one place or to gather in a protest site. And there is a van that has a message written outside that reads, "If you can't do it, Prayut, please leave and don't be stubborn and cause problems to the citizens." And some other protesters, CJ, they were seen hanging or raising signs that with the reading, "Prayut, get out." And these protesters have burned an effigy of a judge also. And however, CJ, the protest had been discontinued due to the unexpected clash of protesters and police. And several protesters were still seen around despite the announcement that this protest should be called off. And according to the report, CJ, breaking through the barricade, flashing off some bombs and usage of tear gas were seen in the protest site at the moment. And however, there was also some reports that the protesters were playing saxophone to just to divert the mood and to just finish the protest at the protest site or just go home. However, the police just stayed there and formed a defense line to whatever continuation of the protest may happen. CJ.
Well, thank you so much for your report out there. Please do take care. And, we want to remind everyone we're still not out of this pandemic. So please do take care and tell us more if there are going to be any more developments.
Okay, CJ, thank you. Thank you so much. And do take care also there in the Philippines. This is Faye Barta reporting live here in Bangkok, Thailand. We live in interesting times.
Now, here in the country, hundreds of residents in the Philippine capital, Manila, finally received the government cash aid to ease the economic pain caused by the latest coronavirus lockdown. Among those who waited in line is 77-year-old Jesus Gomez, whose earning as a tricycle driver was halved by a series of stay-at-home orders since last year, plus more reactions. Let's listen in.
Binigyan po ako ng pera. Nakakain ko ako dahil nag-iisa lang ako sa buhay ko. Wala po naman ako tinutuloyan. Maliit lang po ang bahay ko. Nangangamuhan po ako, kumikita po ako ng 100, isang araw, basta makakain lang ako. Yun lang po. Hirap. Pag hindi ka magtatrabaho, wala ka makakain. Kaya yan, magtsatsaga na lang ako. Minsan nilalakad ko. Hanggang doon sa dulo, dulong-dulo ko. Doon pumupunta ako sa matanda.
Every other day ang biyahe, tapos isang tao lang pasero. Tapos may curfew hour pa.
Kaya mahina.
Yan lang.
Kaya mahina po.
Kaya umina ang biyahe. Hindi ako naghirap.
Hindi.
Ngayon lang. Sabay, may kumpleto. May stereo ako, may TV. Dati may aircon ako. Ibininta ko na dahil walang pambayad sa bahay.
Ito po yung 3,000 na nakuha ko. Magagamit po namin pambayad ng kuryente, tubig, pambili na pong bigas, ulam, yun po. Pambili po ng gamot ng nanay ko tsaka tatay ko po.
About 80% of the more than 13 million people living in the sprawling national capital region are eligible for the one-off cash payment to ease the economic pain caused by the latest pandemic and lockdown. A resurgence in infections, partly fueled by the hyper-contagious Delta variant that has torn through neighboring countries, has triggered lockdowns in the capital and other areas as well. President Duterte said recently the country could not afford more lockdowns. The stricter rules, which include an 8-hour nighttime curfew as well as a ban on restaurant dining and outdoor exercises, are expected to cost the economy about $3 billion a week in lost output. Officials warned of economic speed bumps ahead, even after Delta showed gross domestic product rebounded 11.8% on year in the second quarter.
In other news, China's drug regulator has approved the country's first mixed vaccine trial. A company involved in the study said as the rapid spread of the Delta variant raises concern about the efficacy of domestically produced jabs. Now, the trial will test the efficacy of combining an inactivated vaccine made by China's Sinovac with a DNA-based one developed by U.S. pharmaceutical company Inovio. A statement issued yesterday said. The statement was put out by Advaccine Biopharmaceuticals, Suzhou, Inovio's trial partner in China. Preclinical work has found that two different vaccine applications produce an even stronger and more balanced immune response. Advaccine Chairman Wang Bin said in a statement. There are several types of COVID vaccines, including those using an inactivated or weakened virus to generate an immune response, and the more cutting-edge RNA or DNA-based jabs that use engineered versions of the coronavirus genetic code to create a protein that safely prompts an immune response. China is battling its worst coronavirus outbreak in months, with officials saying many of those infected had already been vaccinated.
A Chinese court today jailed Canadian businessman Michael Spavor for 11 years for spying, a sentence swiftly condemned by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as unacceptable and unjust. Let's listen in.
And found that Michael Spavor was guilty of spying on state secrets and illegally providing them to overseas forces. He was sentenced to the termed imprisonment of 11 years, confiscation of personal property of 50,000 renminbi, and deportation.
We had a consular visit with Michael right afterwards, and he wanted to send 3 messages. I explained that we were very fortunate to have all of the international support in the embassy in Beijing, as well as here with us in Dandong, and he had 3 messages he wanted to send. 1, thank you for all your support. It means a lot to me. 2, I am in good spirits. And 3, I want to get home.
Now, Spavor was detained in 2018 along with compatriot Michael Kovrig on what Ottawa has said are politically orchestrated charges after Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou was arrested in Canada on a U.S. extradition warrant. Spavor and Kovrig, a former diplomat, were formally charged with spying in June last year, and their separate trials took place in March. The 49-year-old Meng Wanzhou, meanwhile, is the daughter of Chinese tech giant Huawei's founder and CEO Ren Zhengfei. And she is fighting extradition to the U.S., where she is accused of defrauding HSBC Bank by misrepresenting Huawei's relationship with Skycom, a subsidiary that sold telecom gear to Iran. While Beijing has insisted the detention of the 2 Canadians is lawful, it calls Meng's case a purely political incident. Relations between the 2 countries have hit rock bottom, with China also accusing Canada of politicizing legal cases. Spavor can appeal the sentence, which Ambassador Barton said was handed down after prosecutors showed the court evidence, including photos at airports, places where one should not take photos, and where there had been some that included some military aircraft. Spavor organized cultural visits to Pyongyang, where he met Kim Jong-un and helped foster the unlikely friendship between the North Korean leader and former NBA star Dennis Rodman. Before his detention, he was mainly based in Dandong, a Chinese city bordering North Korea.
In other news, Seoul will face a serious security crisis for going ahead with its joint military drills with the United States. A senior Pyongyang official threatened today, saying the South had missed its opportunity to improve inter-Korean ties. The statement by Kim Yong-chol came just a day after Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of leader Kim Jong-un, demanded Washington withdraw its forces from the peninsula. The U.S. and South Korean militaries began their preliminary training Tuesday in the run-up to next week's yearly summertime exercise, which the nuclear-armed North has long considered a rehearsal for invasion. Pyongyang will make the Seoul authorities realize what a serious security crisis they will face, Kim Yong-chol said in a statement released by the official KCNA news agency. The South had answered the North's good faith with hostile acts after letting go the opportunity for improved inter-Korean relations, he added. Just last month, Seoul and Pyongyang restored cross-border communications that were severed more than a year ago, announcing their leaders had agreed to work on improving ties. But on Tuesday afternoon, Seoul's defense ministry said the North did not answer the daily calls made between the two countries on their military hotline just 2 weeks after the link was reconnected.
Meanwhile, South Korea reported a record high daily coronavirus cases, surpassing 2,000 for the first time today since the pandemic began. Take a look.
봉쇄령은 필요할 것 같긴 한데 4단계가 너무 오래 지속돼서 이제 사람들이 지쳐 있어가지고 좀 어렵지 않을까요? 차라리 백신이 빨리 들어오는 편이 낫지 않나라고 생각합니다.
The country recorded 2,223 cases, with most infections in Seoul and its surrounding areas, although numbers continue to rise outside the capital. Yonhap news agency said South Korea is suffering from the worst wave of the pandemic despite tough restrictions across the country. The more contagious variants are fast spreading amid the lagging vaccination drive, and the wider Seoul area, where half of the nation's 52 million population lives, has been under level 4 restrictions, the highest in the fourth-year virus curves for the past 5 weeks, while most other areas have implemented level 3 distancing for the last 3 weeks. The semi-lockdown level 4 restrictions ban gatherings of more than 2 people after 6 p.m. and place a 10 p.m. curfew on restaurants and cafes.
Meanwhile, 2 people died and 3 others were injured after jumping from the 4th floor of a building in Myanmar's commercial capital to escape a raid by security forces, authorities said today. Security forces arrested 2 men and a woman during a raid on a building in Botadaung Township in Yangon yesterday, according to the junta-backed True News channel. 4 other men and a woman jumped out of the window of the 4th floor to avoid arrest, it said, adding the woman and one of the men had died of their injuries. The 3 injured men had been taken to a military-run hospital. True News said, adding officers had found materials used for explosions in the raid. Fighting has flared across Myanmar since the coup, as people form defense forces to battle the military. Clashes have largely taken place in rural areas, although in June, 4 protesters and at least 2 military officers were killed in a gunfight in the country's second city of Mandalay.
Meanwhile, the special UN envoy for Myanmar said the leader of Myanmar's military is determined to solidify his grip on power. Let's listen in.
The situation in Myanmar is still very worrisome and keeps me very busy. In my view, the Commander-in-Chief appears determined to solidify his grip on power with the latest caretaker government announcement, also with the formal annulment of the election result from last year, and with the declaration of the Commander-in-Chief to be the Prime Minister of the country. And I fear that we will soon hear also that the NLD party could be disbanded. This is an attempt to promote legitimacy against lack of international action taken. The situation is very difficult for the people. It's a difficult environment to live now in Myanmar. There is no freedom of speech, and I have still grave concerns about attacks against free press. Until now, we have 962 people were killed. We count 7,084 people were arrested, among them also foreigners. 5,526 people are still detained, among them 104 children. We see a lot of violence on the ground. Clearly, many people are afraid of the huge violent scale of the military people, but also the people defense forces are using now more and more weapons which are not artificially self-made weapons. They are also using now professional weapons. So I really hope that a dialogue can happen to avoid a breakout of a full-scale civil war. We have a severe COVID-19 third wave in Myanmar. Entire families are falling sick with COVID, with relatives desperately seeking and struggling to access treatment, emergency oxygen and other supplies, while the prices have skyrocketed.
Meanwhile, EBC Hawaii Pacific correspondent Mio Asenas has the latest on Hawaii's announcement to bring back restrictions for social gatherings in an effort to stem the surge of new COVID-19 cases throughout the island.
Clusters.
Aloha, I'm Mio Asenas, and this is the latest from Hawaii and the Pacific.
Today, we saw 436 cases statewide. And over the last week, we saw record highs of more than 600 cases on several days.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to surge throughout Hawaii, Governor David Ige made the critical decision to implement additional measures.
In the month of July, we have seen the case counts double about every 7 to 10 days. We are seeing transmission and clusters from people going to work, attending social gatherings, going to restaurants when they are sick. The measure will be in effect immediately and will include these provisions. Social gatherings will be limited to no more than 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors. For all high-risk activities, such as bars, restaurants, gyms, and social establishments, indoor capacity is set at 50%, and patrons must remain seated with parties maintaining at least 6 feet of distance between each group. There will be no mingling, and masks must be worn at all times except when actively eating or drinking. And lastly, professional events must comply with all state and county orders, rules, and directives regarding operation. Those organizing professional events larger than 50 people will need to notify and consult with the appropriate county agency prior to the event occurring. These limitations will apply statewide.
More specific guidelines from other government agencies can be expected in the near future, especially for public schools, which started in-person learning earlier this month.
From Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Miwa Sena's Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Staying in the U.S., New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, facing possible impeachment over sexual harassment claims from 11 women and mounting pressure to quit from fellow Democrats, announced finally his resignation. It was a stunning reversal of fortune for the 63-year-old Cuomo, who just a year ago earned praise for his handling of the pandemic before being engulfed in this harassment allegations. Take a look.
And there is a difference between alleged improper conduct and concluding sexual harassment. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that there are not 11 women who I truly offended. There are. And for that, I deeply, deeply apologize. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. But she can come up to speed quickly, and my resignation will be effective in 14 days. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do, because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we. It is still in many ways a man's world. It always has been. We have sexism that is culturalized and institutionalized. My daughters have more talent and natural gifts than I ever had. I want to make sure that society allows them to fly as high as their wings will carry them. Your dad made mistakes, and he apologized, and he learned from it. And that's what life is all about. In my mind, I've never crossed the line with anyone. But I didn't realize the extent to which the line has been redrawn. There are generational and cultural shifts that I just didn't fully appreciate. And I should have. No excuses.
I think the impact is all on Andrew Cuomo and his decision to make that judgment, and I respect his decision.
As a governor.
Thought he's done a hell of a job. And I mean, both on everything from access to voting to infrastructure, the whole range of things. That's why it's so sad.
Now, Cuomo also said he had decided to step aside because an impeachment fight would consume government, cost taxpayers millions of dollars, and brutalize people. His announcement came just days after the resignation of a top aide, Melissa DeRosa, and the filing of a criminal complaint against him by a former executive assistant, Brittany Commisso. In her complaint, Commisso said Cuomo touched her inappropriately. Take a look.
Why did you file that criminal complaint with the sheriff's office?
It was the right thing to do. The governor needs to be held accountable.
And just so I'm clear again, being held accountable to you means seeing the governor charged with a crime.
What he did to me was a crime. He broke the law.
Breaking news now here at BGC in Taguig. A fire which was reportedly caused by a gas explosion hit the MJ Fort construction site here in BGC Taguig. And according to initial reports, the BFP said, or the Bureau of Fire Protection said, the fire was at first alarm at 7:30 p.m. We actually heard the explosion. It's just across my apartment now here in BGC, and we kind of felt some shaking. But as of 9 minutes ago, it was reported that a 35-year-old man suffered third-degree burns and has been brought to the nearest hospital here in BGC. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the St. Luke's BGC Hospital. And we're still waiting for other reports or other updates on what caused the gas explosion here in BGC. So far, no death has been reported, and the mayor has not released a statement. That's it for the update on that gas explosion here in BGC.
All right, thank you very much, CJ, for your update there. And we're also going to have a report from Erlo Bringas, who is at the scene right now there with you at the BGC. So we'll be back with his report right after this. We'll take a break first. Stay tuned.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Protect yourself and loved ones. Use Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant that kills 500 strains of bacteria, fungi, and viruses such as coronavirus and other disease-causing microorganisms. Also potent against viruses in pets. It kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes. Dissolve 1 teaspoon in 1 liter of water. Apply on areas for disinfection or use it for misting. Protect Plus Gold.
All right, welcome back. And we're still getting an update on the fire that broke out at in Taguig's BGC. According to the Bureau of Fire Protection, it was caused by a gas explosion. And at the scene now is our correspondent, Erlo Bringas. Hello, Erlo. Can you hear me?
Yes, Alma.
Yes. Go ahead, Erlo. Kumusta dyan sa BGC? Kanina binigyan tayo ng update ni CJ regarding the explosion there that was caused by a gas explosion. What else do you know, Erlo?
Yes, Alma, as of this moment, alas 9 sa East or 9:06 p.m., ang Bureau of Fire Protection inanunsyo na nasa fire under control status na itong sunog dito sa BGC Taguig. Pero sa ngayon ay wala pang impormasyon mula sa BFP kung ano ang dahilan o kung bakit nagkaroon ng sunog dito sa isang construction site na unang reported na malapit sa area residence along McKinley Parkway. Lagpas alas 7 ng gabi ngayong lagpas alas 7 kanina. At sa ngayon ay may mga bumbero pa rin at ang Bureau of Fire Protection ay nananatiling nasa loob ng fire site para sa ganon ay magsagawa ng mapping operations at ma-assess na rin yung damages doon dito sa construction site. Sa ngayon ay wala nang apoy at naapulan na ito ng BFP pero nananatili pa rin ito sa fire under control status. Ayon sa ilang mga netizens ay nakarinig sila nung ilang mga pagsabog from the construction site at kinoconfirm pa rin natin sa ngayon kung may mga tao from the outside the construction site or may mga nasugatan dahil doon sa nangyaring sunog. Sa ngayon ay naka-standby kami dito sa labas ng fire scene para makakuha ng additional information from the BFP officials according dito sa fire incident. Yan man ang latest narito sa BGC Taguig. Para sa Eagle News, Erlo Bringas, we live in interesting times.
Erlo, can you hear me? Yes, Erlo, meron bang na-report na mga nasaktan dyan sa area ng BGC kung saan yung nagkaroon ng pagsabog?
Sa gayon, Alma, ay wala tayong nakita na inilalabas from the fire site. Pero may mga naka-standby dito na mga ambulance from the PRC o Philippine Red Cross and then from other LGU rescue team to make sure kung meron man na sugatan ay agad nilang malalapatan ng paunang lunas. Siguro for later on, makakalalaman natin yung full information from the VFP kung ano talaga ang dahilan nitong nangyaring sunog dito sa BGC Taguig, Alma.
Okay. Erlo, I think si CJ meron yatang gustong itanong din sa iyo. CJ, are you, please come in.
No, actually, Alma, I'm just talking to Mayor Lino now, the mayor of Taguig City. He's actually downstairs at the lobby of our building now. And he said that someone was drilling at the construction site and hit a gas pipe. And then they smelled gas a few minutes later. And then there was this explosion. So far, there are still no reports of casualties except for the one man that was rushed to. And this has been confirmed by Mayor Dino, the St. Luke's Hospital here in BGC. He said, or he is assuring everyone that this is an isolated case, that there's no bomb, there's no cause for alarm for everyone else here in BGC. Erlo, please do take care. I'll try to catch up with you later after the broadcast.
All right.
Now, in other news, a blistering heat wave is sweeping across Italy this week. Now, that is fueling fires in the south of the country, notably Sicily and Calabria, where a UNESCO-designated natural park is being threatened as of the moment. Temperatures hit 47 degrees Celsius or 116 degrees Fahrenheit in Sicily yesterday near Syracuse, with meteorologists warning that Italy's all-time record of 48.5 degrees in Sicily in 1999 could be beaten today. Elsewhere in the south of Italy, the anticyclone dubbed Lucifer was forecast to send the mercury rising to 39 to 42 degrees today before sweeping northwards with the weekend temperatures of up to 40 degrees in the central regions of Tuscany and Lazio, which includes Rome. The island of Sicily and the region of Calabria have already been battling fires throughout the summer, many caused by arson, but fueled by the heat, with firefighters recording 300 interventions in the past 12 hours. Sicily's governor, Nello Musumeci, called for a state of emergency to be declared for mountains. In Calabria, fires threatened the Aspromonte mountain range, designated as a UNESCO Area of International Geological Significance. Blazes have also devastated Sardinia, with 13 fires recorded during the day yesterday.
And indeed, the fires are sweeping across Europe. At least 65 people now, and 28 of them soldiers deployed as relief firefighters, have been killed as dozens of wildfires raged for a second day in Algeria today, according to state television. Algeria joins a string of countries to be hit by major blazes in recent weeks, including Greece, Turkey, Cyprus, and the western United States. Take a look.
رانا نشوفها صباح رانا نشوفها لبعيد 2 minutes وصلت لهنا ما فهمنا والو. heureusement il y a des personnes qui nous ont évacué, nos familles, les vieux. Nous on a combattu, on a essayé d'éteindre le maximum pour protéger nos maisons et on n'a rien compris. Beaucoup de feux en une journée, c'est pas normal.
Now, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune tweeted his condolences for the soldiers killed as they work to rescue people in the areas of Bejai and Tizi Ouzou, the epicenter of the blazes. State radio said 3 arsonists had been arrested in the North District of Medea and another in Annaba in relation to other fires. More than 70 fires have broken out in 18 states across the north of the country, including 10 around Tizi Ouzou, one of the most populous cities degrees in Kabylie. Meteorologists said the temperature would hit 46 degrees Celsius or 115 degrees Fahrenheit in the North African country that is also struggling with severe water shortages. On Monday, the UN released a major report showing how the threat from global warming is even more acute than previously thought. It also highlighted how scientists are quantifying the extent to which human-induced warming increases the intensity and/or likelihood of a specific extreme weather event, such as a heat wave or a wildfire. Climate change amplifies droughts, creating ideal conditions for wildfires to spread out of control and inflict unprecedented material and environmental damage.
In other news, hundreds of firefighters were battling to control two massive wildfires in Greece today, one raging for 9 straight days now, that have left hundreds homeless and caused incalculable damage. With the assistance of a huge multinational force, Greek fire crews were fighting to beat back blazes on the island of Evia and in the Peloponnese Peninsula in rugged terrain. Hundreds have been left homeless and face a harsh winter, not only at the mercy of floods, but also because of their lost agricultural livelihood and income from tourism. But even as the immediate danger receded, Yanis Kontias, the mayor of the Evia town of Isaiah, said local businesses face extinction in coming months in a tourism season already decimated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Aegyptus, one of Greece's main towns, would normally have tens of thousands, mainly Greek and Balkan visitors in August, and revenue of around 15 million euros or $17.5 million, according to local operators. But local hotelier President Petros Rumelotis said August reservations have collapsed by 90%.
At least one person was killed today and 25 to 30 people were feared trapped under a landslide onto a road in India's Himalayan north, according to officials today. A local police said 6 people have been rushed to local hospitals with injuries and at least one person is dead. The official said one bus or a truck and some cars are also under the rubble, but he said there is no clarity yet because the landslide, when he was being interviewed at this time, is still happening. Landslides are common in India's northern Himalayan region, particularly in the current monsoon season when heavy rains lead to subsidence of earth and rocks. The situation is exacerbated by climate change, making the monsoon more erratic and melting glaciers higher in the mountains. Roads in the region are also often poorly maintained.
In other news, the Taliban are making swift gains in Afghanistan, but President Joe Biden is standing firm on a U.S. exit with limited options appearing to be on the table to reverse the insurgents' momentum. Take a look.
Khan, who's a serious fighter, I think they're beginning to realize they've got to come together politically at the top. But we're going to continue to keep our commitment. But I do not regret my decision. Afghan leaders have to come together. We lost death and injury, thousands of American personnel. They've got to fight for themselves, fight for their nation.
As residents of Kunduz fled the northern Afghan city in fear for their lives this week, its Taliban captors were all smiles. Buoyed by a foreign troop withdrawal that is due to end later this month, the hardline Islamist groups rank and file have flooded the streets of Kunduz and other provincial capitals after capturing them in a rapid advance since the weekend. 9 cities have fallen to the insurgents in the last week, some without a fight, in a lightning offensive that has seen mostly northern population centers fall like dominoes. For Biden, who long championed ending America's longest ever war, there is a cold calculation. Nothing more could be achieved than the United States. long ago accomplished its stated goal of defeating al-Qaeda in the region following the September 11, 2001 attacks, though the Taliban have yet to cut their ties with the group. The United States plans to keep arming and training the Afghan military, but one key question is whether it will carry out airstrikes against the Taliban after August 31. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby confirmed Monday that U.S. bombing sorties backed Afghan allies last week, but indicated there was no decision to do so after the withdrawal, with the administration previously saying air power would be limited to counterterrorism operations.
A firm specializing in transferring cryptocurrency said that hackers cracked its security, making off with a record-setting haul potentially worth around $600 million. Poly Network put out a plea for the stolen Ethereum, Binance chain, and Ox Polygon tokens to be shunned by traders running wallets for storing cryptocurrency. The amount of money you hacked is the biggest one in the DeFi history. Poly Network said in a tweeted message to the thieves, using a reference to decentralized finance involving cryptocurrency. And it said the money stole are from tens of thousands of crypto community members. Poly Network threatened police involvement, but also offered the hackers the chance to work out the solution. The U.S. Department of Justice and FBI didn't immediately respond to requests for a comment. Poly Network posted online addresses used by the hackers and called on miners of affected blockchain and crypto exchanges to blacklist tokens coming from them. Poly Network didn't reply to an AFP request for comment, but Twitter users weighed in with calculations valuing the hackers' haul at some, as earlier mentioned, $600 million.
Meanwhile, Gcash President and Chief Executive Officer Martha Sazan said the company, which is operated by Globe Fintech Innovations Incorporated, will soon offer cryptocurrency into its financial services. Gcash is now the country's leading mobile wallet. There were over 14 million users as of July this year. Sazan also said 40% of Filipinos now have a Gcash account, with the app being used more than twice a day by its active users. The company said it is now in the process of identifying a partner for the initiative.
In other business news, Dubai International Airport reported Wednesday a 41% drop in traffic in the first half of this year, but said it anticipates robust growth after the easing of travel restrictions. Now, the number of passengers that passed through the world's largest airport for international travel fell to 10.6 million in the first 6 months of 2021, according to a statement from the Dubai Media Office. In the first quarter of last year, the airport had welcomed 17.8 million passengers before it temporarily suspended commercial flights in the second quarter to curb the spread of the coronavirus. The statement said Dubai Airports is projecting robust growth for Dubai International in the second half of the year. The Emirate, one of the 7 that make up the UAE, was one of the first destinations to reopen to tourism in July last year. It became a magnet for visitors escaping dreary winter weather and stringent COVID restrictions. The UAE launched a vaccination campaign in December and has inoculated 72% of its nearly 10 million population.
In other news, struggling Hong Kong carrier Cathay Pacific today said its losses in the first half of the year narrowed to $972 million, but warned its outlook remained uncertain as the coronavirus pandemic continues to hammer international travel. The figure is an improvement on the $1.3 billion loss suffered in the same period last year and reflects a concerted cost-cutting regime that has seen headcount slashed and overseas pilot bases closed. Despite the steep loss, shareholders were buoyed by the results, with Cathay surging 3.6% in Hong Kong trade. Chairman Patrick Healy said 2021 continued to be the toughest period in the airline's 70-year history, but the progress of global vaccination drives provided some encouragement for the industry.
Meanwhile, flag carrier Philippine Airlines has announced the cancellation of select Riyadh and Dammam flights in Saudi Arabia in response to the kingdom's travel restrictions. In an advisory, Philippine Airlines said flights between Manila and Riyadh are canceled on August 13, 14, 16, 20, and 21. Likewise, operations between Manila and Dammam are canceled on August 16, 17, and 22. From August 11 to 22, regular flights to and from all the two cities will continue on dates not included above. However, flights coming from Riyadh and Dammam could only cater to 186 passengers per flight to comply with the limitations on the number of passengers allowed. Outbound flights from Manila to both cities are allowed to carry a full load of passengers, according to Philippine Airlines. Affected passengers may refund or rebook their tickets. They can also opt to convert their ticket to a travel voucher.
In other news, German train drivers went on strike over wages from Tuesday, dealing a blow to summer holiday makers and adding to logistics and supply problems already plaguing the industry. Take a look.
Sind beide sehr betroffen, meine Kollegin und ich. Wir sind auf Dienstreise und möchten jetzt nach Mecklenburg-Vorpommern und werden wahrscheinlich 2 Tage hier ausharren müssen.
I was planning to go to München, and today morning I see the notification that a train has been cancelled from Berlin to München.
Wir als Deutsche Bahn tun unser Möglichstes, die Reisenden dennoch ans Ziel zu bringen. Wir bieten einen Grundfahrplan im Personenverkehr, im Fern- und Nahverkehr von etwa 1/4 des normalen Zugangebotes. Das ist so der Wert im Bereich Intercity und ICE. Im Regionalverkehr gibt es da auch noch regionale Unterschiede, aber auch da ist es unser Ziel, alle, die zur Schule müssen, zur Arbeit müssen, auch wirklich dorthin zu bringen.
Only 1 in 4 long-distance trains will be in service on Wednesday and Thursday, as the walkout began with cargo trains from 7 p.m. on Tuesday and is scheduled to extend to the passenger network 7 hours later. GDL argues that it is fighting for better remuneration for train drivers and is demanding a 1.4% pay hike and a bonus of 600 euros for 2021 and a further wage rise of 1.8% in 2022. Deutsche Bahn had offered to phase in a 3.2% wage increase in 2 steps, but wants to apply it in 2022 and 2023. Deutsche Bahn blasted the move as an unnecessary escalation on the back of rail customers. With the walkout also due to effect of rail cargo, Germany's industrial groups already hit by supply chain issues, risk seeing further delivery delays for raw materials or components from timber and steel to computer chips.
In the U.S., President Joe Biden hailed the Senate passage of a historic $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, celebrating a major bipartisan win on a plan he vowed would transform America. By funding work on roads, bridges, and ports, as well as clean water and high-speed internet, Biden said the bill, which still needs House approval, would create thousands of high-paying jobs for people without college degrees. Take a look.
I'm happy to mark this significant milestone on the road toward making what we all know are long overdue, much needed investments in basic, hard infrastructure of this nation. I truly believe that this bill proves the voice of the people will be heard, and that we can all come together to make a difference in people's lives. As you heard me say it before, and I apologize for repeating it, but there are no Republican bridges or Democratic roads.
And that's all the time we have for you tonight. And CJ, are there any latest there for now?
Well, we're just waiting for more word from Mayor Lino Cayetano, but we're still hearing a lot of fire trucks coming in. And hopefully we will get more updates after the broadcast. I'm going to be meeting up with Erlo Bringas downstairs after this broadcast. And again, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm CJ Hero. Please join us again tomorrow.
Looking forward to your updates. And at the end of the day, there always remains so much more to be grateful for. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.